You know, when you're dealing with computers, they talk in terms of man-years. It will take 30 man-years to fix the problem. Well, the problem with Obamacare, they're looking between 3 million and 5 million lines of code that need to be rewritten. I have no idea what all that means, except they're using terms like failure, disaster, catastrophe on this signature initiative of the federal government. Terry, have you signed up yet?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. They say it's not going to be fixed for any time soon, and internet experts are saying that the website was pushed out way too fast, despite warnings ahead of time that it wasn't ready. Dale Hurd has the story.
There's no sugarcoating it.
President Obama almost acted surprised Monday when he admitted that the rollout of Obamacare and the website healthcare.gov has been a disaster. But the complaints about the shockingly dysfunctional government website began as soon as it was turned on. 19 million people have logged on to the website only to find confusing error messages, broken calculators, wrong information on Medicaid eligibility, or just long delays and timeouts. Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius is expected to testify before Congress next week. Her department spent $500 million to build this site, and critics call it a complete failure.
A visit to the website is kind of like a trip to the Department of Motor Vehicles in your state.
Except that most DMV sites work.
If they can't even handle the enrollment, how can they handle the actual system? It is truly shocking even to us how badly things are going.
The president has promised to fix the problems, even reportedly reaching out to telecommunications giant Verizon for help. Meanwhile, Consumer Reports has warned its members to stay away from the website. The online system needs so many repairs that experts warn it might not operate smoothly until after the December 15 deadline for people to sign up for coverage starting in January. One specialist said that as many as 5 million lines of software code may need to be rewritten before the website runs properly. But there are bigger problems. Obamacare itself may just be too expensive for most Americans.
We could actually see an increase initially in the number of uninsured, believe it or not, out of all of this. If the rollout is as disastrous as it's shaping up to be over the next couple months, and people are pushed out of current coverage and find the alternatives too expensive, it could actually make the problems worse.
And critics like Senator Tom Coburn say that in the end, Obamacare is doomed because it just can't work.
Obamacare is going to fail on its own right, and you just talked about the number of people that have signed up. The fact is the sick people are signing up, the healthy aren't. And they're not going to because the deductibles are so high and the cost is going to be high.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
We're going to try to do a story for you tomorrow. As I understand it, this particular initiative, the software initiative, was farmed out to a Canadian company which had failed and was dismissed by Canada because of the problems they had, and yet they were chosen out of many people who were bidding to do this job. And we're talking about spending hundreds of millions of dollars on this thing, and it has been a colossal failure.
Well, and that's just the failure of the system that's handling the signing on and all of that. But Pat, the system itself, once you're in it, is so flawed. Why didn't anybody look at the costs involved? You talked about young people the other day. Kids coming out of college, they're already in debt with college loans. They cannot afford it, but they need the young people to sign up. So how does that work?
This is a disaster of planned economy. Obama wanted to move America toward a European-style socialism. And socialism says government will run everything in your society. And the biggest chunk of our existence in America is health care. It's huge. It may occupy 20% or so of our total GDP. So Obama wanted his hands on this as a good European socialist. That's what he wants. And so it's ideological. The fact that the thing is a screw up, it won't work, it goes against human reason. He doesn't care about all that. He's going to make it go regardless. He's like a doctrinaire person defending the faith. And this is the faith. So keep in mind, you're not dealing with reason on this. You're dealing with an ideology which is now proven to be flawed. And as we've said, Obamacare is facing other challenges as well. In court, John Jessup has that story from Washington. Here's John.
That's right, Pat. A battle against Obamacare's contraception mandate could be fought in the Supreme Court. The mandate requires businesses to provide insurance coverage for the morning after abortion pills and more. Hobby Lobby is asking the High Court to hear its case. The Christian family who owns the craft store chain says the policy forces them to violate their religious beliefs or pay millions in fines. A district court temporarily exempted their business from the mandate in July. The Department of Health and Human Services then filed a notice in federal court to appeal that decision. The United States is condemning an attack by Islamic radicals on a Coptic church in Egypt this weekend that left 4 Christians dead. That statement comes after thousands gathered for the funeral of the 4, including 2 sisters, only 8 and 12 years old. Gary Lane has that story.
It was a scene that's become all too familiar to Egyptian Christians. Another funeral. This time just one day after the victims had attended a joyous occasion, a wedding. An Islamist gunman riding on a motorcycle fired 15 shots at members of a wedding party as they left this Cairo church.
Everyone knows that every Sunday there is a wedding in the church. There was a lot of traffic outside the church when a motorbike and a car approached the crowd outside the church. The car stopped and the gunman on the motorcycle started shooting and ran away.
The attack killed 4 people, including 8-year-old Nermeen, who was excited about wearing her new dress and boots to the wedding.
What is happening is targeting all of Egypt and not only the Christians. This is enough. People are getting sick and tired of this.
On Saturday, northwest of Cairo in Islamia, members of a jihadist group that calls itself Supporters of the Mahdi claimed responsibility for a car bombing outside a military intelligence building. The group warned Egyptians to avoid military and police buildings, saying they are legitimate targets for the Mujahideen. The Islamia bombing and other similar attacks in the Sinai suggest Egypt may be facing the start of an insurgency. The Supporters of the Mahdi accuse Egyptian intelligence services and the military of waging war on Egyptians, which, quote, only benefits the enemies of the nation, Jews and Christians. Militant Islamists blame Christians and the military for the uprising last July that ended Mohammed Morsi's presidency and led to a crackdown against the Muslim Brotherhood. And it doesn't look like attacks against Christians, the military, and police will end anytime soon. This was the scene at Cairo's Al-Azhar University Sunday, rioting pro-Morsi students opposing police. It was another weekend of political unrest, suggesting Egyptians are likely to face more violence and instability in the days ahead. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Pat, the situation there just seems to be deteriorating.
Well, it really won't if the military is allowed to have a free hand, but they're going to have to. The Muslim Brotherhood, let's face it, is a terrorist organization. It is a pro-Islamic terrorist organization. And ladies and gentlemen, how many people have got to be killed? How many affronts to human decency have to take place before we recognize that Islam is not a religion of peace? Islam is a religion of hatred and violence. And you say, well, these people are they're just these radicals. They don't represent the majority. Yes, they do. This is pure teaching from the Quran. Pure teaching from the Quran. We're in the process of doing a booklet that will show precisely what Muhammad said, what the interpretation of all this is, and what the followers of Islam want to, in their extreme form, want to accomplish. Killing, violence, but a little child, all excited because she's wearing her first dress to a wedding. To think of the hopes and dreams blotted out because some crazed fundamentalist radical shoots her down. But the United States, you see, has withdrawn its support of the people who would bring peace and stability. There needs to be a firm hand in Egypt. This whole thing, they've got to get it under control. There's just no way you can allow people just to go at will shooting and making mayhem among the population. And so we as a nation, the United States, need to support the military, which is in favor of pro-democracy Western principles. But oh no, the Obama administration says, well, we're not going to support you because the Morsi administration has been overthrown. Yes, we're not in favor of Muslim brotherhood. John?
Pat, back here at home, veterans from across the country are able to visit the nation's war memorials here in Washington again, now that they've been reopened after the government shutdown. And for many of them this past weekend, it was an emotional experience.
A far cry from scenes just a week ago, these military veterans roamed freely around Washington's war memorials, dedicated to honor their sacrifice and the freedoms they fought to defend. But for 16 days during the government shutdown, metal barricades blocked public access to them, prompting a lawsuit threat from the American Center for Law and Justice and rallies and protests from critics who accuse the administration of heavy-handed tactics to hurt America's veterans.
Well, the politics of pain that are being used by the president go well over the line.
These vets say they never would have imagined being forced to break through barricades after having fought for their country and breaking through enemy lines.
It never should have been closed.
For many of these American heroes, this was a trip of a lifetime, made possible by the Honor Flight Network. The group flies aging vets from World War II and the Korean and Vietnam Wars to Washington free of charge. While they know the political issues that led to the shutdown are far from over, for right now, they're glad to see no one is being denied visiting these hallowed sites.
Really great to be open again.
Hurricane Raymond is hovering off Mexico's southern Pacific coast. Authorities have evacuated hundreds of people from low-lying coastal communities and are asking people to stay off roads and highways. The Category 3 storm is not expected to come fully ashore. Operation Blessing is on the ground in Mexico. Teams are deployed to the area expected to be hit the hardest. Severe flooding has forced them to move to higher ground, but they're standing by to help victims with 14 mobile kitchens, 3 water purification units, and dozens of cleanup supplies. People who don't get enough sleep or don't sleep well have higher levels of a plaque in their brain that's linked to Alzheimer's. That's the finding from the study at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Previous research has found a lack of sleep can be bad for your thinking abilities, but so far, researchers can't say for sure that bad sleep leads to Alzheimer's or that better sleep may help prevent it, although it may be possible. But it's always best to get a good night's rest. And Pat, if the study is true, it shows or bolsters other studies that show the restorative power of sleep.
I'm all for sleep. I think it's great. I think a nap during the middle of the day. My father was a very active man, and he lived a long, productive life. But he always had a nap.
You know, my grandmother did too. She called it her 40 winks.
40 winks, yeah. Well, I mean, they had wisdom.
Yes, I think so too.
You know,
it kind of puts the day in perspective.
In the hot countries, they have the siesta. Of course, that siesta gets a little silly. They go on for hours, and then in Spain, they sit up, you know, partying and drinking until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But I think a half an hour nap or something.
I do too. It's refreshing.
Very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if my door to the office is closed, you'll know.
The younger generation is increasingly moving away from conventional religion. A Pew Research Center report found nearly 20% of Americans now consider themselves religiously unaffiliated. That's up from just over 15% 5 years ago. But still, the report found that many of the religiously unaffiliated still consider themselves spiritual in some way. 68% say they believe in God. 21% report praying every day. Only 6% say they're atheist or agnostic. New York City public schools may see 2 Muslim holidays added to their calendar. The city's only Muslim councilman has been pushing for years to add them. Now both candidates for mayor have endorsed his proposal. Opponents say if those holidays are added, then holidays for other faiths and cultural celebrations should be considered as well. Other proposals include the Chinese New Year and a Hindu holiday. Remember, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website, cbnnews.com.